Herd Hierarchy, top 10 NFL teams heading into week 7. A lot of moving and shaking at the top. So this was a crazy week. We had a lot of really good teams lose. Philadelphia, San Francisco. We also had some injuries. So the list is kind of shaken up at the top. Before we get to Colin's list, let's take a look at my top 10. So before going into this weekend, this is what the list looked like. After the results, we are now here. So a lot of moving. Miami, number 1. They are number 1 again. The biggest move is Detroit. Detroit going up to number 2. Now, I really don't like a team winning and dropping, or a team winning and getting jumped by another team that won, which is what happened with Detroit and Kansas City. But I've got to do it. Detroit is so impressive, and they're so good right now, and they're just doing what you've got to do. They're winning the games they're supposed to win. They're winning comfortably. They're dominant in all phases of the ball. And here's a little sneak peek, boys. They may have the MVP. Jared Goff might be the MVP of the NFL. Kansas City is struggling offensively. I understand they have a good defense. I understand they have Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Andy Reid. But until they prove it, I'm really concerned about this offense. I really am. The rest of the top 10, San Francisco, horrific loss to Cleveland. It might be the worst loss of the season. Like, for a second there, you could say, Buffalo's loss to the Jets. That's pretty bad after Aaron Rodgers goes down. But that loss to Cleveland with the injuries and PJ Walker having to play, really bad loss. But the reason I dropped them so much is because there's so many injuries. Right now, at time of recording, Christian McCaffrey's hurt, Deebo Samuel's hurt, Trent Williams is hurt. So that's why they dropped so far. Philly, up until this point, haven't been good, right? We've kind of said they're not really playing well, but they're winning. Well, now they've lost. So that's going to hurt. That hurts. Anytime if you're winning ugly, I'll give you credit. But when you lose, then you got to answer for all of the previous ugly wins. Buffalo stays the same. Dallas, good win last night. Now, I thought the Chargers were going to win. The Chargers kind of chargered. Justin Herbert had an awful game, but good win for Dallas. Baltimore, good win. Baltimore's steady. I like the team. I think they will be a contender. Cincinnati beat a damn good Seattle team. Cincinnati, I said it last week. If you want a Super Bowl ticket on Cincinnati, you better get it quick. Now, they do have some tough games coming up. They do have a tough stretch. I believe Buffalo... there's another really good team in it. 49ers, maybe? They play a couple of tough games. So we'll see what they're really made of if they split those games. But Cincinnati, I mean, you know how it is. And Jacksonville, tough spot. We talked about it. Really tough spot. 2 weeks in London, coming back for a divisional game. They dominated the Colts. Even though Gardner Minshew threw a bunch of picks, I got to give credit where credit's due. So great win there. So they sneak in. Number 10, Seattle probably would have been the honorable mention. Let's get to Colin Cowherd's top 10 and see where we differ and where we are the same.
On a Tuesday.
Herd Hierarchy.
Time is now. Let's go.
The top 10 NFL teams according to Colin. Number 10.
I'll put the Cowboys in. By the way, they're the most penalized team in the league, 27th ranked red zone offense, but Dak played well, has an 81% completion percentage targeting CeeDee Lamb, and I thought Brandon Cooks arriving was a big moment last night for Dallas.
I thought it was interesting. Last night they showed a graphic about Kellen Moore versus Big Mike McCarthy, and it showed just how conservative Mike McCarthy is with his play calling. The time of possession went up. The run call per possession or whatever went up. The points per game went down. There is a drop-off, right? And I'm still not totally sold if Dallas is a legitimate threat in the NFC. But last night, the Chargers game on Monday Night Football was a great time for them to fall flat. They didn't fall flat. I got to give them credit. Dallas is a team that if they get hot at the end of the year, they could be dangerous, but I would say they're more middle of the pack than a true Super Bowl contender.
They're 10-1 following losses since the 2021 season. That's the best win percentage in the league. I thought they played really well last night. a big game win. They don't get a lot of those. Cowboys at 10.
Number 9.
But the Bengals have Joe Burrow.
Okay,
they
there
were
we go.
outgained by Seattle and won. They've won 3 of 4 heading into the bye week. Hardest remaining schedule. But I like the fact that I thought they were outplayed against the Rams and the Seahawks, and yet they found a way to win both of those games. They will now get healthy. Listen, when they target Jamar Chase 10 times or more, they win. So despite having a deep receiving core, Burrow and Jamar Chase are the key. They're not a Super Bowl team, but I have them a spot ahead of the Cowboys.
See, I think they are. I think Cincinnati is a Super Bowl team because Cincinnati, they have super dangerous weapons. They have a top 3, somewhere in there, quarterback, who at times can be the MVP, who at times can be the best quarterback in the NFL. They have a good defense, especially where it matters the most, getting at the quarterback. They can get after the quarterback. So in the playoffs, all of that kind of translates. All of those things we just talked about in the playoffs, you need. And now they are a team with playoff success. They kind of remind me of the Houston Astros, where count them out, no one pays attention to them, and the next thing you know, they're in the AFC Championship game. So if there's a team around this number, 10, 9, 8, 7, somewhere in there, if I have to put my faith in a team, I'm going to put it in Joe Burrow.
Cowboys.
Number 8.
The Dolphins. They're 5 wins.
How does this make sense? How the hell can they be 4th last week, win by 20 after going down 14-0, and get dropped 4 spots? This is nuts. I'm about to turn off the video. Here is a stat that I found alarming with the Miami Dolphins. Going into the Carolina game, so going into last week, if you take out the Patriots game, because that was a crazy game. I mean, 70 points, 70 to 20. It's not a normal situation. So take that totally out. Going into the Panthers game, the Dolphins had a negative point differential. That is crazy because they're somehow the greatest offense we've ever seen statistically. Right now, they're on pace for the most yards, most points in the season, but their defense is real bad. Now, there is some game script there where their opponents do have to score a lot because of how fast Miami's going, but still, if you would have asked me if they had a negative point differential, I would have said no way. Now, after beating Carolina, you could do that same thing where you take New England out and they have a positive point differential. So it's not as bad as it was before Carolina, but there are concerns about the defense. The defense has to get better. The defense is real bad. I would say the defense right now is probably a bottom 5 defense. I'm not sure if you can win like that, like win a Super Bowl, because the second your offense sputters, you'd lose. So, but 8 is nuts. 8 is absolutely insane.
Wins have come again.
I mean, they're 5-1.
Against teams that are 5-24. Little bit of a mirage. But they have the number 1 scoring offense, the number 1 passing offense, probably the most fun in the league to watch. They have played the easiest schedule. Their defense is just not very good. They don't get a consistent pass rush. They're a heavyweight champ with a glass chin, punch back and they fold. But Jalen Ramsey coming back, Dolphins at 8.
No.
See, look, I'm not, like, what he just said, I don't disagree with the whole easiest schedule, they have a whatever. But you have to do these power rankings on, like, what's happening right now. I can't factor in that they've had an easy schedule and it's going to get harder and all this. All I know is they're 5-1. All I know is they had the most points we've ever seen at this point. They have the most yards we've ever seen at this point. I'm okay with saying they might not be that good, but to have them 8, when I can't wait to see some of the teams he has ahead of them. But to have them 8, I think is a disservice to these kind of lists.
Number 7.
Listen, the Bills, they don't feel like they're buttoned up. They're not as good defensively, and they were held scoreless for 3 quarters against the Giants, but they won. And their 2 losses this season, Jags and Jets, have come in close games.
See, and we differ here too. Colin's saying they won in close games. They won, whatever. I look at it like a false final. And a false final is one of the most dangerous things a team can get. Because if you're strictly going by results, okay. But if you're looking at what actually happened in the game, you talk about New York and Minnesota last year. Minnesota's 13-3. Their underlying metrics were terrible. Look what happened. The Giants, same exact thing. Playoff team, underlying metrics were terrible. Look what's happened. Buffalo is the only team since the Super Bowl era to win a game when the other team, in this case the Giants, had more rushing yards, more passing yards, less field goals missed, less interceptions, less fumbles, and somehow the Giants still lost. So only time in the Super Bowl era a team was to get a win in a situation like that. Imagine where Buffalo would be on Colin's list if they lose that game to Tyrod Taylor, because they should have lost. And the box score and all that stuff says they did lose. So you do have to factor that in where, yeah, they got a W, but I mean, this team, I don't know, man. Buffalo, at any given Sunday, they can win a game, but man, they are a frustrating team to watch. They are frustrating. I feel bad for the fan base because it's such a roller coaster with that team. I think Miami is so much better than Buffalo. And that's going to blow people's minds because Buffalo beat Miami. But if you told me they're going to play 10 times, I'm saying Miami's winning 6 of them. It's just hard. I mean, to have, if I had to put my faith in Miami, Cincinnati, or Buffalo, one of those teams is coming out of the AFC. If you told me one of those 3 will come out of the AFC, Miami, Buffalo, or Cincinnati, I'm saying Miami 1, Cincinnati 2, Buffalo 3.
I will say this, Josh Allen has cleaned up the mess in the red zone from last year where he was throwing picks. This year, 11 TDs and no picks in the red zone. So what they've done situationally, they're a better team. Their defense also leads the NFL in sacks. So they get to the other quarterback, even though their quarterback sometimes too is pressured.
Another thing with Buffalo is they got real injuries. You know, top cornerback, top linebacker, both out. Tre'Davious White and Matt Milano. So they've got, and that's season-long injuries. So that's something else you got to factor in.
Bills at 7.
Number 6.
The Jags at 6. The defense leads the NFL in takeaways. Some of those draft picks now are really playing well. They're on a 3-game winning streak, did well in London. Now they come home where a lot of people thought they'd be sleepwalking, and they picked up a W.
They got to go on a short road to New Orleans. I will be in the Superdome Thursday night for that game. Yeah, I mean, Colin was higher on Jacksonville than I was last week, but at this point, they're rolling. I think Travis Etienne is really finding his way. Christian Kirk's getting involved a lot. Calvin Ridley is solid. He might not be the Justin Jefferson-esque, number 1 wide receiver that people thought he would be, but right now Trevor Lawrence looks good. The team is playing. The team is playing really well, and they did have some tough stretches or tough games there. And if they get a win in the Superdome, I mean, you talk about a tough ask to go London for 2 weeks, come back, boom, divisional, boom, you go on the road for short rest. Wild schedule. So if they get that win, I could see them jumping up my power rankings quite a bit.
Trevor Lawrence, though, knee injury, may not play Thursday, so we'll keep the Jags deserving at number 6.
So I'll update that a little bit. So the market told us that he wasn't going to play Thursday. The line moved. New Orleans got all the way up to -3, I believe. I believe it touched 3. Then he was practicing today. We're filming this on a Tuesday. He was practicing, limited but practicing. CJ Beathard said he believes Trevor Lawrence will play. CJ Beathard is the backup for Jacksonville. Lawrence said he feels better than he thought he would feel. The line moved off of that news, so it's closer to a pick now. So the market now is telling you he probably is going to play.
Number 5.
Philadelphia. Listen, there's a lot I like.
Okay, nailed this one as well, right? So right now, me and Colin, let me get rid of the other one. So right now, we had Philly the same. We had Philly the same. We had Buffalo basically the same. Cincinnati the same. So we're right there. So I like what Colin's got going on right now.
Jalen Hurts already has more picks than last year. So he's not the same without Shane Steichen. We had predicted that. He would pull back about 20%. He's still very good and very dangerous. Their 3rd down offense is excellent, and their 4th down sneaks, the brotherly shot.
Look, Philly's good. Like, don't get that twisted. Philly is good. Philly just isn't as good as they were last year. Philly's not currently as good as some other teams in the NFL. Philly has a really, really hard schedule. So will Philadelphia be a factor in the NFC? Yes. Could Philly get back to the Super Bowl? Absolutely. Will they be in the NFC Championship game? We'll see, but more than likely. right? Like all that stuff can be true, but right now they're struggling. Right now they're not playing as good as teams like Detroit, teams like San Francisco, and they do have to clean some things up. We expected that with the 2 coordinators leaving. It's not, it's not all hands on deck in Philadelphia, but this isn't the same team as last year.
Chubb, you can't defend it. But I will say this. Lane Johnson now is hurt, and opposing quarterbacks' average passer rating is almost 95. Not good. If you want to beat the Burrows, if you want to beat the Mahomes, opposing quarterbacks are having their way with this defense.
Number 4.
I think Detroit's really good. I think they have.
Really good. Really good. So I went back and forth on this. I went back and forth on how high I was going to have Detroit. And I said, you know what? Let's go all in. Because this is another team. This is another team right here. I took a long look at getting a Super Bowl ticket. This team, I said it weeks ago in a video we have on the channel. I think this team's for real. I think this team is legit roster-wise. They have everything. I mean, they aren't weak anywhere. Actually, they're strong everywhere. The one thing that could get Detroit later on is it's really hard to win in the playoffs and win a Super Bowl when you have no experience at all. Detroit hasn't won a playoff series in 50 years, something like that. I mean, they haven't even been to the playoffs, so it's hard to go from nothing to everything. This might be the year that Detroit gets a little bit of that experience, but I don't know if they'll go all the way. But I love the team. I love the roster. Detroit is for real. Detroit is not a good story. It's not like, oh, it's just a good story. Oh, this is cute. No, they are legit.
Better talent than Dallas, but we don't talk about
way better.
7-1 in their last 8 games, 13-3 in their last 16. Best offensive line as far as I can tell in the NFL, 3-0 on the road, right?
We said this last year a lot about Philadelphia. Best offensive line and best offense and defensive line combo. That's Detroit this year. Detroit probably has the best combo, offense, defensive line. They are so strong on the interior, and no one talks about the interior. They're so strong there. I mean, think about this. They might have the best interior in the NFL. They might have the MVP in Jared Goff. They've got a tremendous passing attack, and they've got a good running game. We got some injuries right now, but Jahmyr Gibbs could be a stud. They are. Sam Laporta could be the rookie of the year. This team is nuts. They really are. And especially if you break it down like that, if you go from just area to area, it's man, they have A+ all over the place.
Goff can only play at home. Not anymore. This team is so good, they went on the road. 3rd easiest schedule remaining. Only team to hold opponents under 100 yards rushing in every game. This is not a Jared Goff's good when he's comfortable team. They go on the road and win 2. I have him at 4.
Number 3.
I like Baltimore. I think
Lamar.
Lamar.
That's a huge jump. Damn. To go from unranked to 3. I love Baltimore. Y'all know that. I've said it for a long time. I've talked about their Super Bowl chances. I've talked about I have them to win the division. I've talked about Baltimore all season now. Love them. I love the team. I think they're really good. Their roster isn't as talented as the Detroit, but they win. They're just so good front office wise, so good coaching wise. They are kind of one of those boom or bust kind of teams. They probably do need some help. They're one of those teams where you always hear about like Jerry Jeudy being shopped around in Denver. Baltimore should probably go look at him. Baltimore should go get Jerry Jeudy. Get Lamar some help. Get Lamar some more weapons. They are always ravaged by injuries, but there's a lot of free agents out there where Leonard Fournette right now is talking about going to the Bills. If they went and got Leonard Fournette and Jerry Jeudy and made some moves, kind of did some things, short up the weapons, get the roster a little deeper, it's a really, really good team. Really good team.
Jackson's having a season. Their defense has only allowed 6 touchdowns, fewest in the NFL. They have the number 4 scoring defense. They get after the quarterback. He leads the NFL in rushing for quarterbacks. I thought his first half against the Titans was magical. They struggle at times in the red zone. They are a little too run-centric down there. but they've run for 100-plus yards in 22 straight games. Lamar has always been better in the pocket than he's been given credit for.
Yeah.
I think he looks spectacular this year. Baltimore at 3.
Number 2.
Kansas City, 5-0 with Kelsey and Chris Jones. I still think their wide receiver group needs help at the trade deadline.
Agreed. Colin's giving them a lot of credit for past success. Don't blame him. I'm starting to pull back on them a little bit. I'm starting to kind of take some of that past success and kind of hedge it a little bit. He's obviously given them some leeway, understandable, but they have to address the wide receivers. They have to address this offense. Right now, this is a bad offense. Right now, this is going to sound crazy. This is going to sound really crazy. The Chiefs are closer to the Jets as far as like the way the team is built than they are to the Dolphins. They are more of a defense first, control the game, kind of make something happen, but try and win ugly. They're more of that than throw the ball all over the place, score a ton of points. They used to be that. They aren't that right now. They need to win defensively first, which is a shame, right? Like they need to just go get the wide receivers, go get the players, go get them. If they were to get, I keep saying Jerry Jeudy, but if they were to get Jerry Jeudy, if they were to get a couple wide receivers, they don't have to be that good. Just get some help in the wide receiver room. I think immediately they shoot up to the best team in the NFL because of how good their defense is.
They're winning because of Reed and Mahomes. Their defense, only team to allow 21 points or fewer in every game. Mahomes is the highest graded rushing grade among all quarterbacks this season. So there's a lot to like about him. I got him at 2. I think they need to add a piece.
They do.
I do not think the number 1 team needs to add a piece.
Number 1.
And that's the Niners.
I have the Niners dropped because of injuries and because of the loss, the combination of both of those things. But if you're sitting here and you're not worried about the injuries, I certainly don't blame you for not moving them off. I'm not going to, I'm not going to say there's no way San Francisco should be number 1. They are super legit. But as of right now, going into week 7, if they don't have Deebo Samuel, Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey, I got some question marks.
Trailed for the first time this season. They had 2 awful calls go against them. 3 huge drops. Kicker missed a 41-yarder, or they're undefeated. That kick is made 81% of the time in the last decade. They have stars in every unit.
Yeah.
I didn't think Brock Purdy was bad. I thought that final drive, considering the elements, no Christian McCaffrey Deebo, was pretty darn good. I don't think they're missing anything. Like the Chiefs need another trade deadline piece on the perimeter, and there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I think understandable. Understandable. The Niners are scary. They're a scary good team. Everything went against them in that Cleveland game, and they still almost won. And the calls, like Colin said, I mean, the forward pass call, my God, how are the referees making? How are they doing that? But the fact of the matter is they lost, and the fact of the matter is they have some serious injuries right now. So it's just how it works. If we were doing a season long, if I was projecting the end of the season, San Francisco wouldn't be 4, but I'm projecting going into week 7. Let me know in the comments below, guys, what y'all thought, where I was right, where I was wrong. Same for our friend Colin here. He has been getting the most out of these baby blue shirts. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.